Hi, welcome to video number 7 in our options series. Let's now look at a profit diagram for a long put. There's the exercise price of the put option. We'll pretend it's 40. And we'll pretend the put cost us $210. Well, we know that the value diagram for a long put as a function of stock price at option expiration looks like that. And so our profit diagram as a function of stock price at option expiration is going to look the same. Right? Again, this is a long put. That simply means we own the put. We bought to open our position in the put. We bought to open. So we're going to have this shape, but if the put cost us $210, I'll go here and I'll write minus 210. That means this diagram has to have the horizontal part of it at minus 210. And we know bends occur at strike prices, so I can draw that segment like this. And then I can go like this. And again, there will be an intersection with the vertical axis. Notice that the profits from a long put are indeed bounded. If you look here, for a long call, profits are unbounded. Theoretically, stock price could go infinitely high, and therefore so could the value of the call. But the maximum value for a put is indicated where the profit diagram intersects the vertical axis. So there is a maximum possible profit for a long put. There is also a maximum possible loss. Now is a good time to mention that when you are buying calls and when you are buying puts, the most that you can lose is the amount that you spent to buy the calls or buy the puts. That might seem obvious. We're going to see later that some things that are similar aren't quite so obvious, but when you're buying a put, the most I can lose is the price of the put, $210. And that would happen, by the way, if the stock price at option expiration was greater than the put strike price of 40. I would lose the minus 210. And but that's the worst that can happen. We're going to talk later about the profits and losses that accrue to people who write calls and puts, and that's quite different. That's coming up soon. So here's the minus 210, there's the bend, and let's think about the break even. Well, again, analogous to our call example earlier, we have to make up $210. How do we make up $210 in stock price? Well, since the multiplier for the put is 100 shares, that means if the put increases, if the stock price were to decrease below 40 by $2.10, the value of the put would rise, would indeed then be $2.10 at option expiration. So again, remember that intrinsic value for a put is the maximum of x minus s, or 0, times 100, okay? And x is 40, and I just said that we had to make up $210, which is $2.10 a share. 40 minus 210 is $37.90, so 40 minus $37.90. So the max of that, or 0, times 100. Okay, so this again is 210, or 0, the max, times 100. So of course it's 210 times 100, which of course is $210. Okay, so yes, indeed, at a price of $37.90, we break even, again, break even in an accounting sense. not a cash flow sense, not a financial break-even sense, but the comfortable, standard, well-known accounting break-even. We don't have to overthink that. All right, so that's my break-even. Now, an interesting question also exists. What's this? What's the maximum possible profit? This is not drawn to scale, of course, but what's the maximum possible profit that could occur with this long put position? Well, let's see. I guess the best that could happen for us is that stock price would be zero. Yeah, because when you buy puts, decreasing stock prices usually helps you, sometimes significantly. And if stock price goes to zero, the intrinsic value of the put would be 40 minus 0, which is 40, which is bigger than 0. So 40, and multiply by, I get 4,000. So that means the maximum value of the put is $4,000. And what that really means is the distance between here and here, or here and here if you like that better, but the distance between here and here is 4,000. Distance equals $4,000. And therefore we conclude that our maximum possible profit is $3,790. Right? And that's the vertical intercept there. So long puts have a maximum possible profit, also a maximum possible loss. We just know the distance between the best outcome and the worst outcome is, in this case, 4,000. Generally speaking, it's always going to be the strike price times 100. Okay? So here, this was the strike price times 100, 40 times 100. But generally speaking, it's the strike price of the put times 100. That's the vertical distance. Same thing is true for any put. This is the general statement. So that's the profit. That is a profit diagram for a long put. Now we want to consider something more complex. We want to look at profit diagrams for a short call and a short put. So I will erase this. And remember, when people sell calls and puts to open their position, we call that writing. Writing a call or writing a put. So let's look at a profit diagram for a short call. Okay? Well, I'll think back to the call that we just looked at. I believe the price of the call was $170. And so, and the strike price, I believe, was 30. So the person that writes that call, the best that can happen to them is that they get to keep the $170. And for them to get to keep the $170 as of auction expiration, because we're still having stock price at auction expiration on our horizontal axis. Now, for the person that wrote the call to get to keep their $170, the call would, at option expiration, have to be worthless, which simply means that the price of the underlying stock would have to be lower than 30. In other words, what would make the right to pay 30 worthless? Well, that would be if the option has very little or no life remaining and the price of the stock itself was less than 30. 30 being the strike price of the call. So again, the best that can happen to the person that writes this 30 strike call and receives a credit to the account, the brokerage account of $170, is that they get to keep the $170, and that will happen if stock price at OE is anywhere between 0 and 30. So here we have the flat line running from 0 on the horizontal axis to 30 at a value of plus 170. Now, if the stock price at option expiration is, say, 31, that means this option is going to be worth $100 at option expiration, but we don't own the option, we're short the call. And if the option has a value at option expiration, but more comfortably, say a minute before option expiration, if the option has a value of $100, this person that wrote the call could then close their position in the call by buying the call. They sold to open, now they have to buy to close. And if the price was $100, then they would be earning a profit then of, which would be equal to the value of the option, the proceeds when they wrote the call, 170, minus the price of the call that they had to pay when they bought the call back, when they bought to close, and that was 100, so they'd make $70. So at a price of 31, then we have a profit here of $70. But we still have a profit. So, and this is something very important to notice, this little point that I'm making right here, is that for this range here, and actually more, I'll define the exact value in a moment. It's interesting because we wrote the call with a strike price of 30, and that option expiration along this green line, the stock price was higher than the strike price of 30. Therefore, the option that we wrote expired in the money. But we just saw that even if stock price was 31, even though the option expired in the money, this person that wrote the option still profited. Because the proceeds from the short sale of the option exceeded the price he had to pay to buy to close. And now that is going to be the case for all points up to that point. And that point then would be a break even. And that break even would necessitate the reduction in the value of the call profit position to 0, which would mean the value of the call in the market would have to be $170, which means the stock price would then have to be $170 divided by 100, or $1.70 plus the strike price of 30. So here at 31.70, here at 30 at a stock price of 31.70, we have our break even. Okay, so 31.70 is break even. Now we see stock prices at option expiration along that green line are interesting in that those stock prices are stock prices where this call option expires in the money, and even though we wrote this call, we will still earn a profit from the stock price being all the way up to 31.70 exclusive if we received 170. It's the opposite of the profit position with a long call. You will remember long call looks like this, and I showed this pricing area right here being an area where the stock price at option expiration exceeded the strike price, which means the call expired in the money, but you as a purchaser of the call, you being long the call, lost money. Here we see that there's an advantage to writing options, and the advantage is clear in that it occurs in the range of stock prices at option expiration between the strike price of the call and the break even. Now, I can superimpose the long call profit diagram on this. I'll do it using red. And so we paid 170 for the call and flat line to 30. And then we're going to break even at 31.70 also. And so I'll draw that like that. Now this is a very interesting diagram. And I will color coordinate this now. I'll keep my axes in black, and I'll put the profit diagram for the short call all in blue, so that blue equals short call profit diagram, and red equals long call profit diagram. Okay? So red long call, blue short call. Bangs occur at the strike price of 30. Break-evens are the same. The green colored section of the horizontal axis is what's very interesting. And here we see that at every one of those prices between 30 and 31.70, excluding 31.70, because that's a break even, the short profits, the long loses. And again, if stock price at option expiration is anywhere between here and here, this call will expire in the money. And so that's a very important diagram to keep in mind with respect to the distinction between short call and long call positions, right? So that would be a good diagram for you to take a mental picture of and kind of keep it with you at all times. Well, let's look at an analogous circumstance for short puts. And that will be in our next video.